everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing another presentation chit-chatty style video where we will be discussing a topic that I feel is a very important contributing factor to the work that I put out regarding the divine feminine energy and the tearing down of this energy. I have many videos at this point discussing this topic from various different angles. I'll go ahead and link the playlist down below so that you can check it out in case you haven't, so that you can get all caught up, because I think that at this point it's become a social norm. It's the culture to tear this energy down. It's become the status quo. And I think a big portion of where this stems from is what we will be discussing in today's video. So this video is going to be based on the information that I read in John Taylor Gatto's book, Dumbing Us Down. John Gatto was an American teacher for 30 years. I want to say it was primarily in New York City. He taught in wealthy areas as well as in lower income areas. So he had experience teaching students of all different backgrounds and social economic statuses. He dedicated his life work on being about all of the things that he found that were wrong with our schooling system here in the United States. He mentioned in his book that he was once asked, with all of the years of experience that he had teaching, what is the most important lesson that he feels is taught to students in school? And his response is what he likes to call the hidden curriculum, or the 7 lessons of school teaching. And they are as follows. Number 1, confusion. Number 2, class position. Number 3, indifference. Number 4, emotional dependency. Number 5, intellectual dependency. Number 6, conditional self-esteem. And number 7, surveillance. So of course, these aren't things that are taught directly, but due to the method of mass schooling, based on what is prioritized, the way that everything is structured, the way that everything just plays out, works out, these are the lessons or the takeaways that are indirectly taught and ingrained into our children, according, of course, to John Gatto. He said it doesn't matter if they are rich or poor, students are all affected in the same way. They get shaped and molded to becoming kids that cannot concentrate on anything for very long. They have a poor sense of time past and time to come. They are mistrustful of intimacy, like the children of divorce that they really are. For we have divorced them from significant parental attention. They hate solitude. They're cruel, materialistic, dependent, passive, violent, timid in the face of the unexpected, and addicted to distraction. So this is important because these are the qualities and the traits that he feels our children develop over time throughout all of his years of experience. This is what his observations are. And if we circle back to his 7 lessons of school teaching, we can make some connections. So first, he says that they're students that cannot concentrate on anything for very long. And in his book, he mentions, the use of bells and having like an on and off switch when it comes to your attention. And, because of that, because as soon as the bell rings, it's like they can just leave. It doesn't matter what they're doing. If they're in the middle of an assignment, that's it. It's like off switch, and they're expected to just like move on to the next thing. So he says that this causes confusion, and also he feels that this is a reason that they don't feel like anything is important. He then mentions that they have a poor sense of time past and time to come. And in his book, he mentions that, because students are in classrooms with other students their age, they're not really interacting with younger students or with older students or older people in the community. And so I think this is what he means, that they have a poor sense of time. They can't really make connections about like history and what has happened. So therefore, they can't really make sense of what's to come either. Also, I feel like the fact that the classes are separated, like there's reading, there's math, English, science, so on and so forth. Like everything is so separated, and there's really never a time where they all get integrated together, where the student is able to see the oneness in all of these subjects and how they can all come together and how they can be applied practically in everyday life. It becomes something that is kind of like just detached. And, they don't see the connection in things, which I think also contributes to them not being able to see the connection between time past and time to come, like he mentions here. He also says that they are mistrustful of intimacy. like the children of divorce that they really are, due to the fact that, he feels that they're being divorced from significant parental attention. So the way that mass schooling is set up, it's like 6 to 8 hours, Monday through Friday. He just feels like it's eating away at the time that kids have, to develop a social life, a genuine social life as it pertains to like community and family. We're gonna get into it more, the kinds of social life that they develop in school. It's something he refers to as networks versus communities, and it's a topic that he talks about heavily in the book in detail. I find it very interesting. It's kind of also where my work comes in, because I feel like it's mirrored when we talk about masculine energy and feminine energy, but we'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, he says that the students are mistrustful of intimacy, again, because like they don't have a lot of time to spend with their families. For the most part, they're spending all of that time in schools. And I remember, when my kids were smaller and we were approaching that time of, they were about to begin school, that was one of the things that I didn't like at all, was the fact that they had to spend so much time at school. They end up spending more time at school than they do with their families. And so in a sense, that means that like, that's what's raising them, that's what's shaping them, that's what's molding them in a time when they're so, malleable still, so vulnerable, so young, like they're so ready to be shaped and molded. And they're spending so much of their time in this system that as we continue on with this information, you're going to see is corrupt and is lacking. And because they're spending so much of their time there, of course, this is how they're going to develop, how they're going to perceive the world around them, how they're going to think it works, the worldview that they're developing, the hard ingrained beliefs that they're going to have about life and how it works. He then mentions that they hate solitude, they're cruel, materialistic, dependent. Again, that was two of the lessons, the 7 lessons that he mentioned: emotional dependency and intellectual dependency, because as you can imagine, they're always looking for that outside external validation, whether it's through grades, praise, acknowledgement, being seen. They're always looking for it to come from the outside. They're always looking for those needs to be met from the outside. They're not taught how to do it themselves, how to meet their own needs, how to have self-reliance, how to validate themselves. They learn to always seek it from the external. So they're very dependent. He says they're passive, violent, timid in the face of the unexpected, and addicted to distraction. Again, addicted to the external, all of their needs being met from the external world, being a slave to their senses. They hate solitude. So I can imagine, that means like they hate silence and stillness. It's like they always have to be doing something, distracted. They can't just go within and feel and be still, be calm, present. This is monkey mind, always wanting to be occupied, always needing your senses to be stimulated, always having their attention on the external, not being able to handle solitude and silence and stillness. He goes on to say, don't be fooled into thinking that good curriculum or good equipment or good teachers are the critical determinants of your son or daughter's education. All the pathologies we've considered come about in large measure because the lessons of school prevent children from keeping important appointments with themselves and with their families to learn lessons in self-motivation, perseverance, self-reliance, courage, dignity, and love. Lessons in service to others, which are among the key lessons of home and community life. So this, what he describes here, is feminine energy. It's like he's saying they're not learning how to develop true, genuine connection, meaningful relationships, how to connect, with empathy and love, how to be cooperative, compassionate, how to learn how to connect with themselves, with their own emotions, with how they feel about things, with their own heart. They lack these feminine qualities, this feminine energy, again, because the school system, the structure that it has, it tears this energy down. It doesn't give it room and space to grow. And as we know, feminine energy, it's part of the bigger picture. We can't just erase this energy. This is why our world is so crazy and discombobulated, because there's an imbalance. That masculine energy tries to take over. It tries to shut down that feminine energy, and it doesn't let it rise up. It doesn't let it grow, develop, take up the space that it needs to take up, that it should be able to take up. And I think a big part of this also is like how I mentioned that everything is so separate. You know, the kids, like, they don't get that lesson, or it's not like taught how everything comes together. Like, life is not so black and white and put into categories. Like, there's a oneness to everything. Everything integrates, everything comes together. You know, it's like they don't see life as like one big living organism that's alive and that they themselves are a part of. And if they give themselves time to get to know themselves and to unfold and discover, you know, what's in their heart, it's like then they'll be able to see their purpose, their role in the greater whole, like how they're going to contribute, you know, to society, how they want to contribute. They'll see that oneness, that union, that connection that they are too a part of, and they'll see like how they fit into the dance. But because this energy is so torn down and shut down and locked away, I want to say, like, they don't ever really learn this, they don't develop this, you know. And he's making a point. He's saying like the way that school is, they're not learning these crucial lessons. They're not learning this. You know what they say, like the children are our future. So it's like we're just continuing to create people that are disconnected from this energy, that don't acknowledge this energy, that don't praise this energy. Because again, it's like it was never nourished, it was never encouraged, it was never allowed to come up and to take up space. He's saying that because of the way that school is, the way again that it's structured, the way things are prioritized, he's saying like children are not learning these lessons. And he's saying these lessons are learned in home and community life, but because they're spending so much of their time in school, it's like they don't have time to learn these lessons. And this book is a little bit dated. It was published back in 1992. So this next bit that I'm going to read for you guys from his book, it's a little bit dated, but if anything, today it's gotten worse. Okay, so he says, 30 years ago, these lessons could still be learned in the time left after school, but television has eaten up most of that time. Today is not only television. Today they have mobile devices, portable devices, screens in their face 24/7, social media. So today is not only television, it's even worse today. But yes, he mentions that because they have television, this swallows up most of what used to be family time. So he says our kids have no time left to grow up fully human, and only thin soil wastelands to do it in. He says these lessons, what I'm identifying as those feminine lessons, that feminine energy, he says they cannot be learned in school the way that school is currently set up. He says school is a 12-year jail sentence where bad habits are the only curriculum truly learned. I teach school and win awards doing it. I should know, says John Gatto, and may he rest in peace. He is no longer with us. He did pass away back in 2018. But the work he did is absolutely incredible because it just really points out, you know, what he calls the decay of the American family. And also this segues into his point that he makes about networks versus communities, which again, like I mentioned, is so potent. He describes it so well, so in depth. And like I mentioned, it mirrors a lot of the work that I do regarding masculine energy and feminine energy, and how masculine energy has taken over, you know, has been prioritized, is what is praised, acknowledged, validated. So it's what people, you know, they lean towards because that's like how we've been raised, that's what we've been taught. And so this feminine energy, it gets like forgotten, which is not good because it's part, like I said, it's part of the bigger picture. We can't just forget it. We can't just erase it. The fact that it's been forgotten and torn down and shut down and not, you know, validated or considered as equally as masculine energy is why our world is corrupt and rotting from the inside out, why things are so like evil. This is what makes way for evil to come in, and like it works through us, through our weaknesses, you know, from this imbalance. So I did want to read some excerpts from his book regarding networks and communities because, like I said, I just think he does such a good job explaining that concept, what he means by that. So he says networks, even good ones, drain the vitality from communities and families. They provide mechanical, by-the-number solutions to human problems when a slow, organic process of self-awareness, self-discovery, and cooperation is what is required if any solution is to stick. Networks can only manage a cartoon simulation of community, and provide a very limited payoff. Can networks get some jobs done? Sure, but they lack the ability to nourish its members emotionally. Networks divide people, first from themselves and then from each other, on the grounds that this is the efficient way to perform a task. He says it may well be, but it's a lousy way to feel good about being alive. Networks make people lonely. They do great harm by appearing enough like real communities to create expectations that they can manage human social and psychological needs. The reality is that they cannot. Even associations as inherently harmless as bridge clubs, chess clubs, amateur acting groups, or groups of social activists will, if they maintain a pretense of whole friendship, ultimately produce that old sensation familiar to all city dwellers of being lonely in the middle of a crowd. Which of us who frequently networks has not felt this sensation? Belonging to many networks does not add up to having a community, no matter how many you belong to or how often your telephone rings. What eventually develops out of these constant repetitions of thin human contact is a feeling that your friends and colleagues don't really care about you beyond what you can do for them, that they have no curiosity about the way that you manage your life, no curiosity about your hopes, your fears, your victories, your defeats. The real truth is that these friends were never friends. They're just fellow networkers from whom, in fairness, little should be expected beyond attention to the common interest. But given our unquenchable need for community and the unlikelihood of obtaining that community in a network, we are so desperate for any solution that we are driven to deceive ourselves about the nature of these connections. Whatever caring really means, it means something more than simple companionship and shared interests. He says, in the growth of human society, families came first, community second, and only much later came the institutions set up by the community to serve it. But in the case of modern institutions, the reach of technology is everywhere. There is no escape if the place where you live and the family you live in cannot provide sanctuary. When one is offered institutional simulations of community, involuntary like schools or voluntary like isolated workplaces divorced from human variety, basic human needs are placed in the gravest jeopardy, a danger magnified many times in the case of children. Institutional goals, however sane and well-intentioned, are unable to harmonize deeply with the uniqueness of individual human goals, no matter how good the individuals who manage an institution are. Institutions lack a conscience because they measure by accounting methods. Which again, this everything he's describing about a network, it's like masculine energy. That, it's a structure, there's an order, it can be replicated, it's a blueprint. He says the deepest purposes of these gigantic networks are to regulate and to make uniform. By redirecting the focus of our lives from families and communities to institutions and networks, we in effect anoint a machine our king. Yes, that's exactly right. This is another interesting point he makes here. He says, in the best communities, everyone is a special person who sooner or later impinges on everyone else's consciousness. The effects of this constant attention make all, rich or poor, feel important because the only way importance is perceived is by having other folks paying attention to you. You can buy attention, of course, but it's not the same thing. In pseudo-community life, you are anonymous for the most part, and you want to be because of various dangers other people may present if they notice your existence. Almost the only way you can get attention in a pseudo-community is to buy it, because the prevailing atmosphere is one of indifference. One of the 7 lessons that he mentions, right? A pseudo-community is just a different kind of network. Its friendships and loyalties are transient. Its problems are universally considered to be someone else's problems, someone else who should be paid to solve them. And its young and old are largely regarded as annoyances. And the most commonly shared dream is to get out of a better place, to trade up endlessly. More may not be better, but more is always more profitable for the people who make a living out of networking. Unlike the intricate and sometimes unfathomable satisfactions of community and family life, the success of networks are always measured in mathematical displays of one-upmanship. How many A's? How much weight lost? How many inquiries generated? Competition is the network's lifeblood. And the position suggested by the numerical ranking of performance is its preferred style. The quality competition of businesses is generally a good thing, but the competition made in an institution like a school isn't the same thing at all. What is competed for in a school is the favor of a teacher, and that can be won or lost by too many subjective parameters to count. It's always a little arbitrary. It gives rise to envy, dissatisfaction. Teachers too must compete for the arbitrarily dispensed favor of administrators, which carry the promise of good or bad classes, good or bad rooms, access to or denial of tools, and other hostages to obedience and subordination. The culture of schools only coheres in response to a web of material rewards and punishments, A's, F's, bathroom passes, gold stars, good classes, access to a photocopy machine. So again, he's just pointing out that everything is like an external reward. This is like the only way that they develop success are through external rewards. And it's a culture that supports like envy and competition, which speaks to like that toxic masculinity that I bring up a lot. This is another important point I think he makes. He says truth itself is another important dividing line between communities and networks. If you don't keep your word in a community, everyone finds out and you have a major problem thereafter. But lying for personal advantage is the operational standard in all large institutions. It is considered part of the game. Only the most foolish employees don't have recourse to lying. The penalties for being caught hardly exist, and the rewards for success can be considerable. Whistleblowing against institutional malpractice is always a good way to get canned or relentlessly persecuted. Whistleblowers never get promoted in any institution because they have served a public interest once, so they may do it again. So it's like so twisted, it's so backwards. It's just one of the ways you can tell, like, is it a network or is it a community? Also, this is something I want to mention, I kind of already did. He says that he feels that schools are a major cause of weak families and weak communities. They separate parents and children from vital interaction with each other and from true curiosity about each other's lives. Schools stifle family originality by appropriating the critical time needed for any sound idea of family to develop. And then they blame the family for its failure to be a family. So yeah, and a lot of people may say like, okay, well, school's so bad. What are we supposed to do? Like, our kids need to go to school. They need to learn. Where are they going to learn how to read and write and do math? Like, these are things that you need to know. But he makes it a big point to say that like education and schooling, as it pertains to the way that mass schooling is done, he's saying like those are two exclusive terms. They are not one and the same. Schooling and education are not the same. But either way, there have been studies done that show that before mass schooling became a thing, which I think a long time ago, like 1850s or something, 1852 if I'm not mistaken, in Boston, Massachusetts, it was like where it first started, where it was first developed. And before then, they've done studies that show that students were like smarter then than after mass schooling became a thing. So that's just something to consider. But yeah, in his book, he continues on to say, whatever an education is, it should make you a unique individual, not a conformist. It should furnish you with an original spirit with which to tackle the big challenges. It should allow you to find values which will be your roadmap through life. It should make you spiritually rich, a person who loves whatever you are doing, wherever you are, whomever you are with. It should teach you what is important, how to live and how to die. So he's saying like, they're learning the wrong things. They're not like addressing like the real, like how to live, how to be a whole human, how to be happy, how to cultivate true happiness and peace. Because again, they're completely disregarding like the more feminine aspects of life. And mass schooling is taking so much time out of a kid's life that it's like, if you're gonna take that much time, then you might as well be instilling these qualities, because again, children are our future. So it's like the future that we're just creating when we're creating these type of cookie cutter kids are those adults, those individuals that are just going to keep the world how it is, which is corrupt and poisoned, unfair, unjust, And again, like these school systems, what they're promoting is like a one size fits all approach. It's like everyone needs to fit into this mold. There's like one way to do things. They're not considering like each kid's uniqueness. It's like if a kid isn't fitting in, there's something wrong with the kid. The kid isn't keeping up, you know, instead of them not being able to meet that particular child's needs, you know, because of like this world's view, this perspective that they have that shuts down this feminine energy. Feminine energy is like, it is our uniqueness. One of the 7 lessons he mentions was surveillance, and he mentions that, you know, kids don't have privacy. So when kids are constantly under surveillance, he says that, you know, there's no variety, there's no individuality that kids can develop into if they don't have that private time to like let it unfold and to like get to know themselves and to see like how do they feel about things. They don't have the time to truly like develop that. He says private time is absolutely essential if a private identity is going to develop, and private time is equally essential to the development of a code of private values, without which we aren't really individuals at all. Children and families need some relief from government surveillance and intimidation if original expressions belonging to them are to develop. Without these, freedom has no meaning. He says that the structure of mass education is fatally flawed, and it cannot work to support the democratic logic of our national idea because they are unfaithful to the democratic principle. The democratic principle is still the best idea for a nation, even though we aren't living up to it. Mass education cannot work to produce a fair society because its daily practice is practice in rigged competition, suppression, and intimidation. The schools we've allowed to develop can't work to teach non-material values, the values which give meaning to everyone's life, rich or poor, because the structure of schooling is held together by a tapestry of reward and threat, carrots and sticks. Official favor, grades, or other trinkets of subordination have no connection with education. They are the paraphernalia of servitude, not of freedom. But he says that a home life and community exist there as antidotes to the poison. But yeah, when my kids were starting school, I didn't like that, like the idea that they were going to be spending more time in school than they were with me. And so naturally that made me feel like they were going to be more influenced and like more, you know, basically raised by the system. And I wanted to be like their primary influence. I wanted to raise my own kids, which is why I chose to homeschool. So there are alternative methods to schooling and to education that we can take while like the mass schooling, mass education gets like reformed, because clearly something is wrong here. And I feel like it's developing these kids from a young age to be a certain way, and then it just keeps the problem that we already have intact. But something else that he mentions in his book that I found interesting is that, you know, we tell kids that education and having good grades, you know, means money. It means like success and like that you're gonna be happy. And I know that this was something that was definitely drilled in my brain, you know, growing up. It's like, go to school, get good grades, you wanna go to college, you know, you wanna have the degree because you wanna have a good job that pays well, because you wanna have money, and this is going to equal to happiness and to success, right? But he brings up something that I feel debunks that myth, I guess you can say. He says, shall we ignore the evidence that drug addiction, alcoholism, teenage suicide, divorce, and other despairs are pathologies of the prosperous much more than they are of the poor? You know, so it's kind of like that sentiment, like more money, more problems. And also it reminds me of Jim Carrey. I remember I think he was doing a speech for, I'm not sure if it was like a graduation, a college graduation or something, but I just know it was Jim Carrey, and he was saying like, I wish everyone could get rich. I wish everyone could be a millionaire, so that you can see that that's not the answer. And it's so true, right? You know, like we see like the rich and famous and stuff, and they have like the most issues, it seems, because I feel like having money, it just like emphasizes more of what you already are. Like, so if you're a bad person, or if you have issues, you have problems, like having money is just going to amplify that. So it's not that money, you know, education, good grades equals money, which equals success and happiness. It's like, actually, if you really looked into it, more money, more problems kind of situation. So I just thought that was interesting to mention. But yeah, you know, the author, he says like, you know, we have to discover meaning for ourselves. We have to be able to discover satisfying purpose for ourselves. And he feels like that's a big part of what education should be. And he just doesn't understand how this is something that can be done when we're locking our children away from the world. He just feels like education, like mass schooling, like it's not helping anyone. It's not showing kids what society is and that they are a part of it, and like that everything is connected, everything is interconnected, and like that part is just lost. It goes missing, that integration of you know, being able to see the oneness in everything and being able to see your part in it and your connection to it. Everything is so disconnected, so like separated, and it's an illusion because we're all connected, but like it doesn't come across, you know. And so then they never really know like what is their role to play, what's their purpose. They never truly find that out, you know, because they aren't encouraged to like go within and to figure that part out. That's not what's encouraged, because again, it's like those masculine principles that are emphasized and that are highlighted and that are validated and praised. So it's like they don't ever give time to the feminine aspects of life. They don't give it importance. And like what he says in the book, children learn what they live. So it's like because they're spending so much of their time in that structure and that system that, you know, upholds those things, that's like they get indoctrinated, you know? So as you can see, the culture of mass schooling is mechanical, rigid, employs a method that operates under the framework that one size fits all, where it's presented as there's only one way that will work for all, and so therefore everyone must mold themselves into that. When we have that idea of like there's only one way to do something, this is indicative of like wanting dominance, wanting control. You know, it's highly influenced and driven by masculine traits, or should I say toxic masculine traits, toxic masculine characteristics and energy, in a way that's imbalanced with feminine energy, which again could be classified as community, love, social skills, relationships, being in tune with yourself, connected with yourself, being able to find intrinsic motivation, being able to be kind. It eats away at the time available that should be there for cultivating these things, for allowing these things to be nourished, to grow. It takes time away from community and family life because apparently it doesn't consider it to be important enough. It doesn't see its purpose, its function. And so it doesn't let this energy rise up and grow. So our children get indoctrinated into this worldview, and in turn, it produces people that are disconnected and emotionally immature. It also produces people that have alexithymia, and alexithymia is only relying on, again, external output. You know, they have no internal motivation. Nothing is intrinsic. They have no internal drive. They're only prompted by the external, only influenced by the external. Because in school, it's like someone's always telling you what to do. Someone's always prompting you. Someone else is giving you direction. They tell you how to think. You know, they strip away your own creativity and your own critical thinking, you know, like your own ability to connect to your emotions and how you feel about things. It's like they tell you how to feel about things. So it creates people that are so disconnected from themselves. They don't even know themselves. It creates people, again, that are indifferent and that are emotionally immature. And emotionally immature people, you know, they don't deal with their emotions directly. It doesn't mean that they don't have emotions. Of course, we all have emotions. We can't escape having emotions. It's just like they can't deal with it directly. So their emotions will have them attracted to or doing things that aren't good for them. They're unable to like have empathy, to connect with other people, to want to be cooperative, to be able to put themselves in someone else's shoes. Like they're always just have this self-focus, and they're always so selfish and always, again, trying to one-up each other. And there's like this corruption that exists. And again, this is how the evil gets in. I feel it's like through this development of this toxic masculine energy that, as we can see, stems from like, if you're a kid that went to school in the mass schooling system, this is probably what was supported. And so this is probably like what developed inside of you. It's like your core ingrained beliefs, your lens, how you perceive the world, how you perceive the world to work. And it's corrupt, you know, as we can see, this is a type of weakness. Being emotionally immature, it's a weakness. And it turns into a social norm. It turns into what our culture is. And so people don't see a problem with it. They think it's normal. They think it's okay. And it's not our fault, you know, that we got indoctrinated into the system. If you were indoctrinated into the system, I was in school since the time I was 3 years old. My parents had me in preschool. So I did the whole thing from preschool to 12th grade. And, I'm in my 30s and I'm still working on undoing things. I'm still trying to unlearn things. I'm still like working on myself. So this is like lifelong effects, that this can have on a person. And it's hard. It's like the older that you are, the harder it is to undo certain things, to undo certain patterns, certain habits. It's like your brain is so used to operating in a certain way. It's so hard to not, but it's possible. It's possible, but you have to take responsibility. It wasn't your fault that it happened to you, but it does become your responsibility to become better. You have to be responsible. You have to learn how to become self-aware. You have to be able to grow out of it. You have to be able to grow morals, to develop empathy, to be considerate, to want to be cooperative. Because when you have a vessel, a structure, a body even, that is corrupt, it's unintegral, it's weak, it falls, it's not tough and mighty. So many people like to think that, you're so high and mighty, you're so powerful, when you're not someone that is sensitive and that, cares to see it from someone else's perspective, cares to be like a good, considerate person, wants to submit your own egoic, selfish needs and desires. People perceive that as being weak, but actually it's weak and it's insecure to be emotionally immature. That's what's weak. And anything else that you're telling yourself, it's a lie. You're lying to yourself, you're in denial. These people that they're operating with this toxic masculine energy, they're strategic. They hide, they camouflage themselves, they disguise themselves to then ambush, to then attack, because they don't know how to serve anything other than themselves and their own ego, than their own selfish wants and cravings and desires. And they don't care who they're hurting and who they're stepping on in order to fulfill those things. They think they're the most important. They prioritize themselves over others. But when you have a heart, when you are connected to your emotions, you have courage, you have valor, you want to serve something other than yourself, something higher than yourself. You're not only looking to just serve yourself. You know that the highest thing you can be is like a vessel for God, a vessel for love, a vessel for truth. You're not only looking out for yourself. You're serving something higher. And people that are able to do that are people that are going to be good with relationships, good with friendships, good in communities, genuine people that align with love and with truth and with God and with divinity, with purpose. People that want to contribute to the community because they see the oneness in everything. They see the connection. And so naturally, you're going to want to cooperate. You're going to want to know, like, okay, what's my purpose in this, in all of this? What's my role? What's my function? How can I be of service? And that's how we combat, this imbalance, this evil, this poison that has taken over our world. So before we wrap up the video, I did want to mention some points that are made in the book about like how we can turn it around, just to leave it off on a positive note. So he says that children must grow up in an environment that stresses self-motivation and self-assessment. Schools that focus on external motivating factors like rewards and punishments for meeting goals set by others are denying children the tools that they need the most to survive. He says children should be taught the ability to communicate with others, to share experiences, to collaborate, and to exchange information. This is critical. Conversation is the ultimate means of communication. So this must be a central part of a sound education. I agree that that's very important. And then the last point I want to mention is he says, as the world moves toward universal recognition of individual rights within a democratic society, people must be empowered to participate as equal partners in whatever enterprise they are engaged in. So this means that students and teachers require full participation in running educational institutions, including the right to radically change them when needed. Absolutely, I agree with this as well. I always give my kids the opportunity to like, what are you interested in? What do you want to learn? I let them guide the ship, or when I notice that they're interested in something, I'll make sure to like incorporate that, like, everyone should be represented. Everyone should be an equal participant. We shouldn't like view adults as like, oh, we're the ones that know and kids don't know. It's like, it's their education. They should have a say. So I love that, because it's like, that's how you can cater to each kid's individual needs and like their interests, We're supposed to cater it around them. We're not supposed to try to make them fit into some preconceived structure and then tell the kid that it's their fault or it's their problem when they're like not meeting it, which is what they do. And then it creates self-esteem things, you know, for these kids. It's like, oh, well, I'm sorry, you're behind. You're not learning this and that. Every kid learns different. You know, it's like that Albert Einstein quote, like, you're judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree. It's like, we're supposed to know the kid. Every kid is different. We're supposed to be the ones to like mold into them, you know, and like create something that's going to work for them, not the opposite. Because then you start giving them like complexes and like self-esteem issues. They think something is wrong with them. They think there's something inherently wrong with like their self-worth, or they're stupid or something. And again, then they don't know how to give themselves that validation. It's like they're constantly always looking for it outside of them, which can be very harmful throughout that child's life as they grow into adulthood. It's like always needing someone else, always relying on something else to like validate you and to fulfill you, instead of being capable of doing it yourself. It becomes a problem. So yeah, you guys, this is a topic that is very near and dear to me. It's very important to me because, like I said, I'm a homeschooling mom, and I couldn't articulate this. I couldn't really put this into words, you know, when my kids were younger, and I just knew that I didn't want to put them in the school system, and I got like so judged for that and so looked down on, you know. And I don't know, it's one of the things that I'm most proud of, that I really listened to my gut and I just knew it, like, no, I don't want my kids like being indoctrinated or being brainwashed, or I don't want my kids spending more time with someone else, like in another place that's not me. Like, they should be spending the most time with their families. Like, it all just seems so wrong to me, and I'm so happy that this book exists. I really highly recommend that you guys read it, because it basically like really outlines it and really like lays it all out, like what the problem is. So again, like, even though I couldn't articulate it, it's like I felt it. I knew there was a problem. The way that it just like connects, so because everything is connected, right? Everything is one ultimately, but like it's exactly what I've been saying and what I've been talking about as it pertains to like masculine energy kind of like overpowering this feminine energy. It's like they're both important. They're both equal pieces to the puzzle that both need to be considered. And the fact that the divine feminine energy is the one that gets torn down, like, it's a problem, you know? It's a real problem. And I just think this is another example of that. So yeah, you guys, that is what I have today. This concludes this video. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Let me know, what do you guys think about this? What are your thoughts? What comes up for you? I'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and until next time, bye.